The dumb things I did when I was a kid. The dumb things I did when I was a kid.
The dumb things I did when I was a kid.
My name is Doug, and I did dumb things when I was a kid.
And my name is Zerb, and I've done dumb things as a kid.
Zerb.
Sorry.
We got to keep it down a little bit. We are in the library, you remember.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I have brought us to a special location to record our podcast today, which we affectionately call Dumb Things I Did When I Was a Kid, and some of the smart ones as well. So because we're in the library, we have to keep our voices a little quiet. We're doing library stories, by the way. Those are the stories that we are going to do today. And I thought it would be great. There's a couple of libraries that are important to me in my life. One is my neighborhood library, which was Southwestern. I forget what it was called. It actually had a name, but it was part of the Southwestern Library System, I believe, on the southwest side of Columbus. Was it called Prairie Hill? I don't think it was called Lincoln Village Library. I think it was called something like Prairie Hill or something to that effect.
When I was driving down to see you, I did pass Prairie Hill, so that's a possibility.
So that is possibly. In fact, I tell you what. Let's move down here a little bit. This library this is the other library that's important to me. This is it was called the ERC. It's the library in my middle school. ERC stood for Educational Resource Center. If we go down, you see there's 4 stacks here that has most of the nonfiction books, and then all the fiction goes around the wall there. And here in the front, we've got some desks, and that's where the front desk where you check out the books is, and the teacher are. Let's go down the stacks a little bit, and we can talk. So don't play with the globe there by the window. And
it spins so well.
Well, look at real quick. Earl over here has made a square using the Logos program on the school's Apple IIe's there. Look at that.
Oh, that is so awesome.
Yeah. So, but let's
Good job, Earl. Oh, shh.
Keep it down.
Sorry.
Let's go back here. We can talk a little bit more normal when we get back here in the stacks and we're away from the teacher. But I was a good kid. I was a dumb kid. I did dumb things, but I was a good kid. And so I was often given no, it's true. And I was often given passes, during study hall or free periods to come into the library by myself and just read during middle school. Now, there were grade school libraries as well. I only have vague memories of them. I remember them being like kind of open, like they would have big front windows, and the teachers would set up little displays for the seasons and times of year and so forth. My high school library was just a big open court in the middle of the school. There was a mezzanine that I had classes up on the mezzanine, and so there were 2 levels to it. An open deck like up at the second floor, and you could look down and see the library below. I know we had Hawaii by James Michener, I think, there on the shelf, or maybe I saw Nabokov one time because I looked it up because Sting mentions a novel by Nabokov. But that library was not as important to me. Really, it's the ERC here where I would come for free periods and sit here by the window overlooking the outside courtyard with the cherry blossom trees in bloom, and I would read books, and that was just a wonderful time. And the library by my house there, which was across the road from State Route 40 Broad Street. So I always had to ask permission before I could go to the library. Coming out from my house, go down a couple streets, and then actually crossing Broad Street required mom's permission. But spent so much time in the library. I really believed that there was magic in the library. Did you? I believe that,
I understand that. Definitely. It was a place of learning, number one, but number two, it was just so, the reason I guess you could say you believe it was magic is the fact that you had to be so quiet. So there must have been some huge reason for such power to make everyone so silent. And I always felt like you were surrounded by anywhere you wanted to go mentally. Any book you open up, it's going to take you anywhere you want to go.
Well, that's what that's what we were told, like reading Rainbow, and what was the ABC, Saturday morning show that used to animate books, and I think that they had Captain O.J. read more or something like that. And,
Yeah, vaguely I remember that.
yeah,
in the 70s. Yeah.
there were posters like that in the library saying, books can take you anywhere. And I really believe that. I believe that I could find some, forgotten tome that just had magic in it, that I would just, nobody had pulled this book off the shelf for decades. I mean, I understood that. I understood that there were books on the shelves that had been there for years, untouched, and maybe I could find it and open it and, some magical power would come to me or something to that effect. So, I just believe that libraries were magical places. They were special places to me. So when we told dumb stories about the libraries, I wanted to set the stage a little bit. I wanted to talk about those libraries that were precious to me at that time. And I wanted to invite you into this library, my middle school ERC. Makes us be a little quieter, but it's a good place for us to record the show. What about you? Are there any libraries that were special to you? How much time did you spend in a library? How much did you love libraries, etc.?
I was in my middle school, Swanson, 7th and 8th grade. I was a library aide. So my job was to go and clean up the mess from everybody reading books, but also in the downtime after that was finished, it basically gave me a free period to do whatever I wanted, because sometimes the librarian didn't have anything for me to do. Mrs. Selmer was her name. Mrs. Selmer. Whew. She was a sweet lady. And she was very pretty, if you know what I mean. But so I went in there and I was able to use the TV on the cart, and also back then having a video camera in the school was a new thing. So I got a hold of the video camera and I took it into the auditorium and to learn how to use it, because if there was an event coming up, the library aides were in control of videotaping things.
Right. So you took a golf club and pretended to be Darth Maul, didn't you?
No.
You are the Star Wars kid. He's been outed. We've identified him.
I should have done that. No, what I did was just I took it to the auditorium and I set it up, and I would perform things for myself on stage, and I wish I could get my hands on those videotapes. I actually turned those back in, but I never cleared them. So somebody's watched me at age, what would that be? I guess 12 and 13, I guess 13ish, and I was performing all kinds of stuff. I was doing scenes from movies. I can't remember. I was trying to look cool. I discovered Aquanet then, so my hair was always poofed up. Actually, it belonged to my mother, but I started using Aquanet at 13, which is why I'm so shiny now. There's nothing up here. But,
just a fire spark caught that afro and just all the Aquanet ignited and it was gone.
That's right. My huge afro is gone.
Well, I do hope that you cleared. I mean, I would have liked to see those videos. I hope you cleared them. I won't go into much detail about this, but as we start getting into dumb stories, you did remind me that there was a school legend about a kid, because we also had a video camera in school. I never saw it, never touched it, but I heard of it, and I heard that one of my peers, one of my fellow students, filmed himself doing something best done in private. I'll leave that. Yes, I'll just leave that to imagination. But for some reason, filmed himself. Yes, and I don't know if it's true or not. I know the story was circulated in school, so I'm assuming you did not do anything.
Oh gosh,
that foolish.
That would be one sticky situation to get yourself into.
Out of.
Yeah, and well, no, I never. That thought never. I'll just say crossed my mind.
Yes, that thought never crossed. I don't know whose mind that thought would cross. I don't know who would say this is a good thing to do. But you know, in any case, so were you, AV club or AV squad or something?
No, I never joined any of the AV club or something like. And that never connected then as much as it does now. I should have, because I enjoyed it and I learned a lot. I mean. During the week, I might have had 4 days of nothing to do and 1 day of cleanup, because the library was pretty empty in my middle school for some reason. I guess that's just Arlington, Virginia for some reason. Nobody really wanted to learn. But, so I spent a lot of time just running around with audio-visual equipment, recording equipment, and hence what I do now, music. And, it helped fire some of that, which was already on fire already. So... that's what I did.
So the equipment in the library contributed to who you are and what you do today.
Right. Helped. It definitely helped. Learning how to use all that gear.
I attempt to be a writer, at least today. I'm still, actively writing, working on fiction and nonfiction both at the present time. And, I think a lot of that was fueled by the library. So these were,
Definitely.
very important places. I mean, they're it's kind of like the PBS, you didn't,
Well said.
you could forget about PBS. You know what I'm saying? NBC,
Right.
ABC, CBS, and then you got your independents. Fox came on the scene. That could overshadow cable TV, could overshadow PBS, but every once in a while, Nova was doing something really cool, and, I think it's the same way with the library. Well, now that we've established our affection, for the library, why don't we go into some dumb stories? I mean, great things happened in the library, sincere, serious things happened in the library, but, it was us, so dumb things happened, in the library as well. You said you have a couple dumb kid stories centered on libraries.
yeah.
Why don't you take the first shot here?
None of these, thank goodness, like all of my other stories, result in me getting hurt,
Oh,
which is wonderful. So tonight, I'm sorry, no ambulance stories, but my experiences with libraries, first of all, is, of course, what I told you about being an AV dude. I was not much of a reader unless it was holiday-based. For some reason, I like to read books on Halloween. I like to read Halloween stories. So it was a Halloween tree book I think I actually read.
yes, Ray Bradbury.
Thank you. And another one of my favorites, which I ended up owning, was and I ended up, libraries would have those book sales. So I purchased the Monster Makeup book by, what was his name?
Dick Smith, is that?
No, gosh, I even want to do a podcast on the guy, and I can't bring it to mind. Is that a Bradbury? No, that's Ray Bradbury. We were just talking about him. Anyway, there'll be a podcast eventually.
It's black and white colors, and it shows how to put like scars on your face.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
he has it's a blue covered book. Oh, that's killing me. But anyway, so I would definitely get those in the fall time. During the summer, I spent my times in the libraries hitting on the girls because the girls were always in the library reading, and the guys were the doofs hanging out in front. I was one of the doofs hanging out in front, either skateboarding or biking or pretend I was a BMX dude and showing off in front. So I would go inside, and I remember one day there was this woman this girl, we were just kids, and I had a crush on her, so I pretended to read. And I picked up a book, and I would sit there, and I would look in my book, and I would look at the words, but I wasn't really reading anything, and I'd be like, and sitting as close to her as possible, and I would try to look at her every once in a while and look back down again, turn the page. And I thought I was being so cool, and then she goes, "I know you're not reading." And I was like, I was reading. How you doing? Tried to get all cool, How you doing? My name's Zerby. They call me Z. I hang out, and she's like, she does this, hair flip and stuff. I was like, listen, I don't know if you want to hang out sometime, and we had the ice cream place down the street. We go down to Black Forest Restaurant, maybe get some ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Trying to be cool. I didn't say saying. I don't know what I said. I was trying to be smooth in the 80s. Never worked, but just that first initial feeling, almost like you're about to go over the roller coaster. That first feeling you get
Yes.
when the girl says, "You're not even reading," which automatically just told me I'm the stupidest person in this library right now. Everybody else is seriously trying to work, and I'm the one making a fool of myself. Not even reading. I'm just trying hard to get her to notice me, and she sure did the wrong way. Everything fell apart from that moment on. So no matter what I said after that, I could not get a date with this girl. And nothing ever came of it. But I'll never forget that initial pain of, you're not even reading. And I just felt like, she's right. My whole life is a lie.
Do you remember what book it was you were not reading?
No clue. I grabbed something off it was probably something even worse. Like,
How to Quilt in 30 Days or
How to Keep Yeast Infections Down.
Yeah.
By Dr. Jacqueline Bissett or whatever, So could have been one of those books for all I know. But yeah, so that's one I remember vividly.
Well,
Being a place of turn down.
I also have a library story that centers on a woman. This one was an actual woman, not a girl. So I'm going to go with Prairie Hill. For some reason, I think our library is called Prairie Hill. You know, maybe hearkening back to the days when, you know, there actually used to be prairie around Columbus, you know, when Ohio was the western frontier. But,
Good night, John Boy. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So, it was renovated at some point, and I really think they made it worse. It used to be like you go in the entrance and kids library was to the right and adult library was to the left. And I started out, you know, on the right and computers were in the middle, and I began, you know, gradually working my way left. But, once they renovated it, they changed it. But as they were renovating it, the bathrooms had to be taken out. And there was only like one weird, you know, toilet in a closet in the back. And so one day I was in there with my friend Nathan, and Nathan was it's hard to describe what Nathan was. He wasn't stupid. He was one of the smarter guys that I hung around with, but he sure did act stupid. And he wasn't bad, but he would do bad things, and he didn't do them as wisely or craftily as other people would. I'm not nearly encapsulating him here, but that's a little, if I had to put it in words, that would be Nathan. So this woman comes in and she's, I dislike evaluating people's appearances. But honestly, this wasn't like a hot woman. She was more like a,
That was a great sentence, right?
Yeah.
But
sorry. She was more like the mom in For Better or For Worse.
Okay.
I mean, do you ever read For Better or For Worse and you're like, this is what I'm going to be someday? Because if you look at the comic strips, we got some hot moms, Blondie.
Oh yeah.
I really like Rose is Rose. Have you ever seen Rose is Rose?
No. I'm going to say no, but I think I might have, but I'm going to say no just to be safe.
I don't think Sally Forth is too bad looking,
Sally Forth would be homely.
Really?
But homely for me, but Sally Forth, I don't like her hair.
Yeah, I don't care for her hair.
From the neck down, hubba, hubba, wubba, wubba.
Yeah, so there you go. I can't think, I know there's some other the Family Circus mom.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
there is nothing better.
But this lady was more like the mom from For Better or For Worse. I forget I think her name is Elle or something in For Better or For, and they're Canadian too, so they're messed up.
Yeah,
but
I trust them.
In any case, she was more like that, and she goes into this closet, that has a toilet. I mean, it's not a bathroom; it's a closet with a toilet in it. And you can shut the door and and it's unisex. I mean, it's the only one they have,
Right.
So, she goes in there with her daughter, and for some reason we thought this was hilarious, but she goes in there with her little, toddler daughter. And so all of a sudden, we're standing outside looking at books, and we hear the little girl say, sorry.
Don't go for it.
Yeah. This is one of the dangers of telling these stories that, they make me laugh.
Okay.
But, we hear the little girl say, well, where am I supposed to sit? So, which lets what's happening behind closed doors, So
exactly.
For some reason, again, the more mature and understanding and compassionate me would have just left this woman in her bathroom needs alone. Nathan, though, goes up, and again, it's just this flimsy. I mean, the different, you get the old type doors. Like my office door is solid wood. I don't know where we got it, but it's a solid piece. This was just a flimsy, plywood Home Depot door. Nathan goes up to it, bang, 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 bang with his fist. Which again, I'm both, I'm both dying with laughter and I'm also horrified, because as much as I caused trouble, I did not like trouble,
Yeah.
And that would have been bad enough. But then you hear the woman inside go, just a minute, has no clue that we're messing with her at all.
Right.
Does not think that the pounding on the door was, in any way overly aggressive. She, just a minute. And, I don't know what happened from that point on because I took off and I drug Nathan with me, dragged or drug, whatever the
Right.
past tense of that is. I took him with me. Yeah, I draggeth him out of the library, and that was the end of that. So,
Oh, man.
what other dumb library stories do you have?
Oh, gosh. I got to think here. There was the time I have a friend named Dennis who would run around. And I do want to apologize for my cat. My cat is having a conniption fit back there, so I don't know if you can hear that.
Every once in a while, I hear a faint, plaintive yowl.
It was much worse when he was outside running around the library. So in respect of everybody who's trying to read, I put him back into the AV room.
Yes.
And I don't think he likes it back there. But I think it's a stupid thing. This goes not dumb things. This is stupid, intentional, stupid. Okay, and it didn't result in anybody hurt, which was good. But me and my buddy Dennis would run around in. Dennis, I hope you're listening, and I'm sorry. It has to be told. We would run around the. When I got another Dennis story later. We would run around the library for some reason, and it would make us laugh when somebody's standing in one of the library aisles when they were reading a book to run up and just scare them half to death by pushing books over from the other side. And then run so they wouldn't catch you. So I would take a book and like mack it against the other books, and then they would fly off onto the other shelf and down the floor, and you hit a person, or, hey, creep, or whatever, and come running around. And, yeah, that's one of the stories. It's a short and sweet one, and we never got in trouble for it, thank goodness.
I don't see how you could not get in trouble for that, because I would never.
We didn't get caught.
I think that idea crossed my mind, but even today, if you see movies. I mean, this is kind of a trope where you see two people, talking through the stacks. I don't think you could do that with my library. I think there was a back to the stacks, if you know what I'm saying, so that, like it wasn't open. You couldn't see through it. You couldn't push a book through it. But I see people do that on TV shows, and I'm like, oh my goodness, that is so horrid. And now I know one of the people who used to do it.
Yeah, we used to flip them right through. You take them and flip them right through. It would be book to book, like
right.
You could bookend to bookend, but yeah, you take it and you smack it, and the other books would fall off on the other side. And we loved it. We loved hearing the reaction more than seeing it.
Sure.
We would try to do it as high as possible too, so that it would be falling somewhere near them in the vicinity of them, if not on them. But nobody ever got hurt. So, and I don't think we were aiming to hurt people, but I'm wondering if I was, and that scares me. That there was a possibility that maybe I was trying to damage a skull.
Well, it depends on what you were trying to push on them. If you were, trying
Encyclopedia Britannicas.
Oh yeah, well then there you go.
It wasn't the big ones. I really want to tell this other story if I
sure,
can.
Go for it.
It does involve the library, but it doesn't start in the library. And this one is a doozy of a story. It didn't end up in a hospital, but I was bleeding. I'll tell you that.
Oh.
All right, it's a big one. I'm going to tell it anyway because we're good at telling the worst of our kids' stories. So, at my old school, what is the one that's before? I guess it'd be grammar school. Before they tore it down, it was an old building where, like you've talked about before, the bricks came out, but there was like maybe 3 or 4 bricks that were out, and then there was 3 or 4 bricks that went in, and then 3 or 4 bricks that came out, and it was like that pattern all the way up the side of the building, which made a ladder on all the corners
absolutely.
of all the buildings. So me and my buddy, I won't mention his name, but his name is very close to the name I just gave just a minute ago, and it could have been the same person. Yeah. So we're going up the side of the building. We made it to the center of the building and found a way in. One of the janitor's closet had an opening where the janitor could get up on the roof and do work up there if he had to. Pardon me one second. So we made it into that part of the building, went down the stairs, and we were in the school. We ended up close to the library, so we messed around the library a little bit. Didn't make a mess, didn't make a ruckus. We're just excited of the fact that we got into school. We basically broke into my grade school. So, I run around acting like idiots. I don't remember too much if we had a skateboard with us or not, but there was a time when I used to skateboard in the school. But I don't remember if this was one of those times. I don't think I would have. For what follows, I wouldn't have had a skateboard with me. So we messed around a little bit, and then we decided we've been in here long enough. I don't want to get caught. Let's go. So we go to leave, and we were crawling back up. And to get to the ladder part, we had to go over this area where a shelf was. And I tripped and knocked over it was a milk glass vase with chalk in it. And it fell to the ground and broke. And as it fell to the ground and broke, I kind of fell with it and landed and cut my hand open really bad. Yeah, so I got onto the ladder and we got up and out of there. Today, forensics would have a heck of a time finding me because I had my DNA all over the place.
Yeah.
And so I go up to the top and got out there. We jumped down. This is a true story. We jumped down off of the building, and my hand is just covered in blood. I have an arm. There's a cop in the center there was a big playing field next to the playground. It's a true story. The cop was pulling into the playground area with the lights going, and I immediately put my hands behind my back and as if I was going to get cuffs, but that's what I mean. And just to give you an example where my
cuff me now, officer. Right. I'm the one. So, I'm the one that did that thing you didn't even know about yet. Just
exactly. And they're like, "Come here." He's got his hand out there, and he's one of the cops where he does his job so well that he doesn't have to look you in the eye.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever met one of those police officers who just, what you're doing. And they don't look at you, which is great because my hand's bleeding like crazy. And he goes, "We've been hearing reports of kids climbing up the side of school. You guys know anything about that?"
And there's bloody handprints going right up the...
I said, "If you take a look over that way, there was some kids crawling up the side."
Oh,
earlier.
my
I saw
God.
'em. We were around back playing, and I swear they were over there. They were trying to get up the side of the building. "All right, thanks a lot." And he, this big shot puts again, drives away. Me and Dennis just looked at each other. We got so lucky.
I can't believe that worked.
It worked, and I made it home and bandaged my hand up. And do you know that I have never told a soul about that, including my own wife, until your podcast?
Has the statute of limitations run out yet on
I would
breaking
hope
and
so.
entering and vandalism of public property? Because otherwise, if that cop hears this podcast...
That building doesn't exist today.
Oh.
There's no proof that ever happened. You bring me the DNA of a story I just made up, and I'll see you in court. No, it did happen, but yeah.
Well,
So that's the worst thing I think I ever did, too,
that's the worst thing, period? Or the worst thing in this episode?
in this episode.
Oh, okay. So I said that in, my public library there, the Prairie Hill Library, there were computers kind of in the middle, kind of in the section separating the adult or separating the adult from the kids and young adult sections are these computers. And, I decided I wanted to use them. I don't even know what they would have been. Flack, Rob O'Hara would be able to tell us probably, but, we're talking early to mid 80s. So it would be Apple IIe, I guess, Commodore, something, to that effect. But, you had to take a test to be able to use computers. Now, my mom worked for a computer software company, and still did until she just recently retired. Her company wrote software and she would travel around the country teaching people, teaching their customers how to use the software that they wrote. So she used a lot of computer jargon at home. Well, I wanted to use the library computers, and you had to take this test. So I went to take the test. I knew nothing about computers, but right. I discovered at that moment this skill that has always, been a blessing to me for the rest of my life, that I just know how to bluff my way through tests. That, using these terms that I had heard mom use, boot, reboot, all these, I don't know what other
Lingo.
terms. Yeah, this like I just bluffed my way through this test. Probably just like my driver's test, I passed it by 1 point. I don't think there was a wide, margin of error there, but I managed to pass it. So we drove. I passed the test, and I couldn't use the computers that day. So we went out to go camping. One of the few things that we did as a family one summer. Grandpa was there, and I think I've told stories about my grandpa before that relate to this camping trip. But in any case, I wanted to get back so badly. I wanted to get back before 4 o'clock Saturday, so that I would get my hour of computer time, because you had to come in and, reserve a computer, and you got like an hour. And, so somehow we made it. I mean, we just got home in time, and I don't even clean up from the campsite. I run over to the library and, sign in. So I get a computer. Nobody else is there on them. And to get, the software, which is on those floppy, 3x5s were like the hard floppies, right? What were the ones that were
the fives? Those were the 5 1/4 inch, I think they were.
Yeah. And they were just, they felt so cheap in your hands. They were
they were floppy, definitely.
Yeah, definitely floppy disks. And so you had to go up to the desk, and you had to look through a catalog, and just based on title, pick out, what you wanted to play. Well, all the titles sounded great, pirates, versus aliens. I don't know what they were,
Right.
I know one had something to do with pirates. They were all text adventures. And like, I had never, I know Rob O'Hara, he did an episode of You Don't Know Flack on text adventures. I did not care for them one bit. I don't know what I was expecting. I mean, we didn't even have graphics back then. I mean, these would have been Atari 2600 days where, but for some reason I expected, a world of adventure was going to come out of this little floppy disk that said, Pirates of, the Caribbean or whatever.
Right.
And it
was
didn't.
all supposed to be up here.
Yeah, it was all like, go north, pick up map or stuff. And I'm like, and I pestered those poor librarians. Within the span of an hour, I must have checked out 20 discs, trying to find one that was mildly entertaining. And I never went back. I never used the computer again after passing the test and discovering that this was all I could do with it. Just was not
all
interested.
That hard work on that.
All that
test.
hard work. So
just out the window.
any other?
I was going to ask you, have you ever used a fish machine, or what did they call that? The
microfiche. I don't think
microfiche.
that I ever used them.
Yeah.
But I had a lot of them because they would get thrown away. And I would find them in the trash, and they looked interesting to me. And I was sure that I couldn't read them without the machine. I mean, you'd hold them up to the light. They were blue, and they were, and like dark blue where there was white space, and then light blue, I think, where there was text or pictures. And I would hold them up to the light, and it was too small to see what they were. But I was sure, that this was plans for the Death Star, or, some, James Bond's secret gadget information is on. So I had stacks of the never used them. Maybe I did. I remember it wasn't exactly microfiche, but it was like, and then some of those microfiche were like, some were like manual, but some were automatic, weren't they? Somehow you told it what you wanted, and it would do
it would look it up for you.
But,
and it would do this huge grid and then find what you were looking for.
I think for a school project, I did use like the micro strip. Do you remember that, where it had like magazine articles, and they were on it was like 35 millimeter film, kind of.
Yeah.
And it's very,
before.
very similar machine. You put it in there, and it didn't have the vertical axis. You just horizontally scrolled through the pages of the magazine, and you could print what you wanted. I did mess around with that a little bit.
Well, we had that in our school, and there was we used to go through, I did an incredible report on, was it Stonewall Jackson? No, somebody else. See how incredible it was? I can't remember who it was. But I went through a lot. And the cool thing was that my dad worked for the government and was the master of lamination when it came out. So he took everything to his job and laminated everything so that when I took it back to school after working, we could put it up on what was the name of the thing that you put a slide on there and it would shine up on the screen?
Projector?
It was it was a
overhead projector?
Overhead projector. Yeah, that's the thing. And so
and you were the AV guy. Pfft.
And I was, see why I lost my position. But the cool thing was that we would go through microfiche stuff, and just again, this falls under stupid, not just dumb. We used to draw mustaches on people's faces in the newspapers, and we draw goatees on some of the other things, and googly eyes on some of the presidential goodies and things like that.
Yeah.
Just knowing somebody would come across it and be like, "What the."
We used to do that too. We used to write notes you're a moron or something like that, and just stick them randomly, in library books. it's kind of hilarious, but you never got to see the payoff.
No, you never did.
Yeah,
But
so
knowing was out there helped you sleep better at night.
yeah,
That was the
just
good news.
you just imagine that one of these days, some crotchety old man is going to come through and pick up that copy of Tiger Beat and
Yeah.
I'm a moron. What the hey? Who did this? Those kids.
McCoy!
Yeah, that's he just knows who I am. I'm going to get you next time, McCoy. No. Hey, you got any other library stories?
No, I think I'm tapped out of my library stories.
Well,
I wish I had some more.
I guess I got one more. I don't think this is a dumb one. This is kind of like a McCoy victory, but you used to have like the last day before Christmas break was so awesome, or even like the Friday before Halloween or something, because we would have parties, right? So the last day before Christmas break, we're having a party, and for some reason we have a piñata, and I don't know why, but I don't know why we had a piñata. It was a green donkey that has nothing to do with Christmas. I don't think Mary rode into Jerusalem on a green donkey. But in any case.
Yeah, never know. You weren't there.
I guess I wasn't. It could have been a green donkey. I think the generally accepted theological, explanation of the donkey was that it was, purple or something to that effect. But in any case, we had a green donkey, and I had never done a piñata before, and I wanted so badly to damage it. We had the entire 7th grade class there. So they blindfold you. And of course, you go up there, they blindfold you, they spin you around, and then you take some shots at it. And some kids were tapping it. Most were just airball, just what do you call that when you miss in baseball? It's not airball. It's a whiffer. Is it just?
Yeah, I guess a whiffer or a grounder. Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah, so.
You skimmed it.
You like baseball as much as me, huh? So,
I'm not a good baseball person. No,
yeah. So that's what you're seeing mostly. And, the entire class there, I just wanted so bad. So they get me up. They put the blindfold on me. You were not supposed to touch the blindfold. Spin me around. And I guess the force was just with me because I just whack. And I just knew, because I just, boom, I just hit it. And I wanted to see what I'd done. I peeled that, bandana off, peeled the blindfold off. And I had knocked one of the donkey's legs off. And, I took it home as a trophy.
Definitely.
I think that was the year that I got a bunch of sectars for Christmas, and I think that was a better present than the sectars is that I had taken off the leg of this donkey. I was so excited about that.
Holding it up over your head.
Every dog has his day, and I guess every Doug has his day as well. So, one of the few victories I got. Well, listen, I want to take you a little deeper here.
Sure.
Into the library, because in addition to telling some stories of dumb things that we did in the library, again, the subtitle of our shows and a few of the smart ones too, or maybe we just say a few of the good things of our childhood are coming out in addition to these dumb stories. I was a voracious reader, particularly in my middle school years, but even into high school and I think grade school as well. I learned to read at a very early age. And just enjoyed it tremendously and was always reading. And so here in, my middle school ERC, I have set up my own shelf. I've cleared away whatever educational junk they had on this shelf. And I have collected all of the books that I read and loved back then. And I wanted to share them with you. So come on further back to me. It's all the way down in the corner. I always liked this corner. I remember that I found the Never-Ending Story in this corner one time, and I told a joke that I always tell every time I see the Never-Ending Story. I said, gee, I thought it would be longer. But I like that one. So the Never-Ending Story is not one of the books that I read. I've never read that one. But so it got cleared off. So I've cleared off this little corner here. I don't know why I love this corner so much. But I've cleared up this little corner, and I want to take you through some of the books that I've had here. We're going kind of chronologically from baby books up, but we had were they Little Golden books? Do you remember those?
Oh, I'm a huge fan of the Little Golden books. I even try to find them nowadays.
Yeah, they were real thin. Not a full-size book as far as height and width goes, but they had like a golden, what do you call that? The back of the book was golden?
Yeah,
the binding. So that's why they were called Golden Books. And they were just, some of them were licensed like Disney characters, or, you know, so you'd have Cinderella, Snow White, etc., Mickey Mouse. But some of them were, you know, things like, the Pokey Little Puppy.
Yeah.
Which my daughter loves, and to this day I still don't understand. You know, the Pokey Little Puppy keeps getting dessert until finally he doesn't get dessert. I don't understand it, but you know, the Saggy Baggy Elephant.
Yeah.
What was the one about the tugboat? I forget what the tugboat was called.
The little tugboat that could. Oh, that's a train that could.
Yeah, that's the
tugboat.
the little engine that could.
Well, the tugboat I thought also was in the same
Well,
manner where he had to pull a whole bunch.
No, he gets lost and out in the from the bathtub to the real ocean or something like that, and then manages to work his way back to his boy. But in any case,
Oh, that's right.
yeah, there's no way for me to catalog all of the Golden Books because I was too young, and you did not pursue those like, you know, some of the later entries I pursued and so remember very well. But you know, they were just given to you. So
Well, before you continue, don't forget Are You My Mommy? Don't forget Green Eggs and Ham. Don't forget. Okay, continue.
Well, yeah, that's right. Dr. Seuss belongs on here as well, so we might as well. And I am surprised. Again, my daughter has discovered Dr. Seuss. I take my daughter to our library here in California every Saturday. I mean, they have story time on Saturday morning, and we always go. So. In fact, I talked to you earlier or last week, I guess, when we were leaving story time and on our way to Taco Bell, which is our, you know, routine. But, you know, so we always pick up, you know, and she loves the Dr. Seuss. So we've done Green Eggs and Ham, The Cat in the Hat. But there's other ones that, you know, I Belong in a Zoo. Do you remember that one with this animal that had these spots and he could do all these crazy things with his spots? Or Hop on Pop. The world of Dr. Seuss really scared me.
Why?
I had security issues when I was a kid. I love Peanuts today, the Charlie Brown Christmas special, Great Pumpkin. I love those things. I was terrified of them as a kid because you never saw the adults. I was terrified of Tom and Jerry because they were destroying their house all the time. And I just had security issues as a kid. So I didn't see how anybody could survive in a Dr. Seuss world. It just you know, there was crazy animals that to me looked like they could be violent and hurt you, and no clear source of income or occupation for any of the, you know, the residents of this place. So Dr. Seuss books really scared me. But, you know, you did have the classics, The Cat in the Hat, The Grinch That Stole Christmas, Green Eggs and Ham, but you also had that I Belong in a Zoo. You had you know, Fox and Socks, I think, and there are just several others. Again, there's no way and there were other like Dr. Seuss related books like Are You My Mommy? You know, like that had the Cat in the Hat on them, but they weren't, you know, sometimes he wrote and sometimes he illustrated, sometimes he did both. And then sometimes the Cat in the Hat would be on these books, and I don't think that the real Dr. Seuss did anything to them at all.
Well, I think the reason that my guess is that they had the Cat in the Hat dude on there is just to get the attention of the child to jump on it.
It was a brand.
Yeah. And an eye catcher, to put it bluntly. But yeah, I'm the same way with the Cat in the Hats. I loved them. I loved all of them.
Along with that, there would be the Berenstain Bears books. Yep. Inside, Outside, Upside Down. Do you remember that where he's in a box and he keeps the box, and I think he gets put on a truck or something like that. That probably traumatized me as well. The Spooky Old Tree. Oh, yeah. I love this. And cause again, I did like mazes and discovery and, you know, Scooby-Doo level creepy things. And that's what you have in the Spooky Old Tree. And you get that one beautiful, double page splash where they go through the tree and you can see the path that they took to get to where they are as they're running from the giant sleeping bear, and just how they go up the tree and down out the slide. It's all these secret passages and hidden things. Oh, I love that so much.
I loved getting lost in that book when I was a kid.
Oh man, I could study those pictures. I mean, and you did as a kid. I don't have time to do, you know, I'm like speed reading fiction books today just to get them done. As a kid, you stared and stared and stared at these books until they were burned into your mind.
Dissected them.
I have this dolphin book. I don't know what the title of it is. It might just be Dolphin. But there's a baby dolphin that gets attacked by sharks. and his fin gets bitten off. And then the other dolphins come up from beneath and hit the shark with their nose and kill it. And my mom told me she would do that for me.
If she would kill a baby dolphin for you.
No, she would kill they don't kill the baby dolphin, they kill the shark that's attacking the baby dolphin. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've never forgotten. My mom read that book to me and said I would do that for you. Do you remember Caps for Sale?
No. Tell me that one.
So there's a guy, he looks kind of like Mario he's kind of an Italian looking guy with a big handlebar mustache, and he sells caps. That's his job, 25 cents a cap, and the caps are stacked on his head, and that's how he carries them. And he takes a nap under a tree one day.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, all the monkeys take his caps while he's sleeping. There's a tree full of monkeys. I don't think they have monkeys in Italy, but in any case, these monkeys take his caps, and everything that he does, the monkeys, not mummies, that would be a different story, but the monkeys mimic him. And finally, he says, "You give me back my caps," and shakes his finger at them and balls up his fist at them, and they just imitate that. Finally, he takes the one cap he's still wearing and throws it on the ground, and they all imitate that and throw their caps down, and he gathers them up and goes on his way and says, "Caps for sale, 25 cents a cap." So
there are Italian monkeys. They call those Pomeranians.
Oh, is that?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And that's the best joke I've heard all day. I like that one.
Thank you.
There's a monster at the end of this book. Remember that one?
Yes.
In fact,
I had totally forgotten about that until this moment, and I love that book. And as a matter of fact, no, I didn't forget. Last time you and I were recording,
my daughter was reading that and interrupted us because she wanted us to know there's a monster at the end of this book. So Grover from the Muppets is the monster in question, and he's trying to prevent us from getting to the back of the book. So he puts up a brick wall and glues the pages together. I forget what all he does, and just as a kid.
Prevent you from going on further.
Oh, whoever designed that knew what they were doing, because as a kid you're just like, oh, you bricked up this page, huh? I just, and yeah, I just love that, Sylvester and the Magic Pebble was one which kind of made me sad. Sylvester's a donkey, and he goes and he finds a magic pebble, and I forget who tells him the rules of the magic pebble, but then a tiger appears, and he gets scared and he says, "I wish I was a rock," as he's holding the magic pebble. Because that's what he thought a rock would, if he's a rock, the tiger can't eat him. Well, the tiger goes away, but then he can't wish himself back because he can't speak. He's no longer touching the pebble. His parents, go to the place where he disappeared. I mean, months later, his parents go to the place he disappeared, and they find the pebble, and they're sitting there and they're sad, and they're just, we wish Sylvester was back, and Poppy comes back. So it was a happy ending, but as a kid, it seemed to me like it took a long time to get to that happy ending.
And have you, and not to interrupt on your list there, but don't you think that's a trend that's not used nowadays to show you that with time and effort you can get back to what you want to do, or with time and effort you can complete what you want to complete?
Oh yeah.
Everything that's written now for kids is just so babied, for lack of a better word. It's
kids
so
are such wimps.
Watered down, exactly. And it just teaches them they can have whatever they want right now, no matter what flavor, color, taste, anything.
Yeah, we had to.
Oh, sorry. I don't know why I said that.
That's okay. The Five Chinese Brothers. Do you remember that one?
No clue.
Okay,
No.
So there's these 5 Chinese brothers. They all look alike. This is back in the day when you could, draw a yellow face Chinaman with, slants for eyes, and he's Chinese. So forgive us for that one. But it is a neat story because the brothers all look alike, and each has like a special power. So the one can drink up the ocean, and he'll go and drink up the ocean and hold it in his mouth and then gather treasure that was hidden. And then he spits. Well, one day this little boy is collecting this treasure with him, and he can't hold the water anymore. He keeps trying to get the boy to come back. The boy won't come back, so he has to let it go, and the boy drowns, and he's charged with murder. They're going to kill him. So they decide to behead him. Well, he brings in his other brother who looks identical that has like an iron throat, and they try to behead him, and it, doesn't work. So then they decide to roast him, and one of his brothers can take extreme heat, so he goes in and they put him in the oven.
Familiar as you're going. Go ahead.
And I forget the others, but the gist is that they just get tired of trying to kill this guy, and so he gets away with homicide. But yeah, no, it's justifiable homicide, manslaughter. I don't know. He didn't mean to kill the kid. So
Not much has changed with Kim Jong Il now.
yes, yeah. The Ghost on Saturday Night was a book that I think I found through the little book club. You remember the book club where you would come in and on your desk in the morning would be, this like troll book club, and it was about 4 pages of color ads, and you could, pick out what book. So the Ghost, I mean, it just said Ghost, so I was attracted to it.
Of course.
But it's about a boy, this town, a Wild West town, and these shysters come in saying that they can call it. I thought it was the ghost of Jesse James, but it's not. It's some unknown, generic Wild West criminal they're going to call up his ghost. In reality, they're using that as a cover to rob the bank or something like that. And this boy who can walk through the fog, because it's real foggy, he knows the town, so he can walk through the fog. He figures out what they're doing and gets him caught. I had forgotten about that for years and finally recovered that. And
Don't think I saw that, but I like that. I like the premise to it.
It's amazing. His goal was to earn enough money to get a saddle, and that's why he would guide them through the fog for a nickel or whatever, and then his reward for stopping the bank robbers was a saddle, and I had totally forgotten about that, and then remember that. Spooky Tricks, again playing on the ghost thing, was a book of just simple little magic tricks that you could do, and it was illustrated, and there was supposed to be this little ghost that would help you. And I remember, one thing it would do is teach you to stop your pulse by putting pressure under your arm. And you could say to people, "Look, I'm dead. I have no pulse." And it would teach you
try that.
So have you ever if you put something up to your eye, if you put a tube up to your eye and then put your hand there and open both eyes, it'll look like you're seeing through your hand. Little stuff like that. But
cool.
Yeah, that was called Spooky Tricks.
I've done that before.
Ed Emberley drawing books. Do you remember that? Yes, you're trying it right now on camera.
Yeah, go ahead.
Ed Emberley drawing books. Do you remember those?
Fill me back in again. I'll try to remember.
So it'd be like, okay, here's how you draw a rabbit. You start with a square and you add 3 triangles and it's a rabbit,
Right.
Oh, those were hot properties in grade school. And there was the purple one, the green one, the Halloween one. And the first ones would be very simple. You'd make a little man out of rectangles. And then the final ones would be like a dragon, and it was real complex and took up 2 pages. And we would always try to draw that dragon. And I don't believe I was ever able to successfully, draw anything. Yes.
That same idea, wasn't that also part of the Washington Post at one time? Back in the mini pages, didn't they also have that where you could draw this and win whoever draws it the best?
We had something in the Columbus Dispatch, some sort of mini pages, and maybe that sounds familiar, but that would have been a pale imitation of Ed Emberley. Ed Emberley was the greatest. Charlie Brown's Cyclopedia. It was an encyclopedia for kids. It wasn't an encyclopedia. It was cyclopedia because, kids. So they, how do kids say spaghetti?
Paschetti.
Paschetti, yeah, like Paschetti, and I got these were at the grocery store, and so every week they would have a new volume, and if you bought $50 worth of groceries, you could get the book for 99 cents or something like that. And Mom bought all of them for me, and I read them all. And
you still have them?
Unfortunately, I do not. I saw one at the flea market the other day, and I should have got it, but it's right here on the shelf though, as you can see.
I'm looking right at it.
Yeah, so, we forgot where we were for a minute. But
I get so enthralled by what you're saying that everything else just fades away.
Well, I am enthralling. I know it. But
totally.
In any case, one of the things that I learned, one was about the weather, and they talked about eclipses, and how the moon goes in front of the sun and it gets dark. Well, apparently they didn't define eclipses well enough, because at that moment I was sitting outside in a little lawn chair. Those 3-piece lawn chairs that you can lay down. I was sitting outside in a lawn chair, and this was before Mom married Dad. So we were in the low income housing, I think in Marietta, Ohio. And the clouds go across the sun, and it gets a little dark. And I said, "Oh, there it is. There's an eclipse." And so close, but not quite. Moving up a little bit. I discovered little short novels. They seemed a lot longer when I was a kid, but I've reread a lot of these today. As you can see, they're on the shelf here, and I can churn through them very quickly today. But some novels that I loved. One was called The Civil War by Betsy Byers. And so
Nothing to do with Shepard.
no, not Sybil Shepherd, but it's similar. There's a girl named Sybil. And of course, it's a play on the Civil War. So two boys love Sybil and they're fighting over her. So it's the Civil War. And I have not reread this one yet. But I remember that one of the endearing endearing qualities of Sybil is that she said she had skimpy earlobes. And this boy that is our narrator, the main character, he loves her skimpy earlobes. The 2,000-pound goldfish was a little more serious. It's a boy. Yeah. His mother has committed like a political crime, like she was part of a radical group that put a bomb somewhere and it wasn't supposed to go off and it did kill people. So now she's on the run and he has to live with his grandma and he's without a mom and a dad. And he makes up all these, silly horror movies like a 2,000-pound goldfish underneath, Cleveland or something like that. And I have reread that one a lot sadder than I remembered. I didn't remember the mother angle. I just remembered the kid making up these neat horror movies. The secret. Yeah, go ahead.
Nope, I was just giggling along with the horror movie part.
The Secret Life of the Underwear Champ is about a kid who gets a chance to be on. My phone's ringing. We'll just ignore that. Be on in a TV commercial, but it has to be for underwear. And he's afraid that his baseball team will despise him since he is in an underwear commercial. Bunnicula, remember Bunnicula?
Vaguely.
The Vampire Rabbit, and there was Holiday Inn and the Celery Stalks at Midnight, and
I wish I caught up on that.
Yeah, a whole series
the idea.
Bunnicula adventures. A whole bunch of Ramona books. Remember Ramona? Henry and Beezus, Super Fudge. Were those all Beverly Clearly? Were those all the same people?
I can't remember. I would think so.
You don't remember Super Fudge?
No, I don't.
Tales of a Fourth Grade. Is it Tales of a Fourth Grade Nothing or Tales of a Fifth Grade Nothing?
We'll say Fifth Grade Nothing.
Okay. Yeah. I remember in one of those, like, they have a party and one that, they're all very little kids and one little girl asks the rest of them, do you know how to tinkle? And she does know how to tinkle. And so she demonstrates that for them, that she can tinkle. I also, in one of the Ramona books, her dad smokes and she wants to get him to stop. She puts up a sign that says no smoking. But because she's writing in that big kid way, she can't get smoking to fit. So it's SMO-KING. And her dad comes and says, who's Mr. King? He's like, Mr. Smo King? I don't know Mr. Smo King. But he also, I think in that same book, he tells her, once is funny, twice is silly, 3 times is a spanking. And I still say that to my daughter today. I say once is funny because she likes to take off her clothes, say, look, Dad, I'm naked. Or she likes to get out of bed when she's supposed to be sleeping. And I tell her once is funny, twice is silly, 3 times is a spanking.
What is the naked thing with 3 or 4 years old is?
She doesn't do it as much anymore. But it was never a real big thing, but every once in a while she'll peel it off and look, Dad, I'm naked. Haha. And I'm like,
that's the same thing with Jocelyn, my granddaughter. She'll go running around the whole house.
Yeah.
And think it's the funniest thing in the world. And we're like, first, you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
Secondly, don't run outside. Why are you running outside?
Yeah. We try not to react because we don't want her to think, this is something dirty or taboo or whatever. But it's more annoying than anything. It's like, I got to get you dressed again. So, the Boxcar Kids, remember the Boxcar Kids?
Is nothing like the box. No, not like the box.
I think it's like not like the box. They're a family of orphans, I think, and they get on the train. They hop a train like hobos and travel across the country or something like that.
No, I don't think I ever saw that.
Hardy Boy books. I can't remember which Hardy Boys I read. I
saw the Hardy Boy books. I read, I think, one of them. Like I said, I wasn't much of a book reader, like book.
Right.
I never jumped on the book wagon for some reason, but I do remember reading a Hardy Boy book, and I think if it had to do with a ghost, I probably had read it.
Yeah, I think I read one with a ghost too, or something to that effect. Yeah. Never touched Nancy Drew. Wouldn't touch Nancy Drew, but I could be enticed to do the hard. Yeah, exactly. Hardy Boys could entice me. Mouse on a Motorcycle and Stuart Little. I get those two confused. There was also Runaway Ralph was a sequel to Mouse on a Motorcycle, I think, but they're both about little mice that get on cars or motorcycles and ride around. And I can't remember much about him beyond that.
Which is which? Yeah.
Freckle Juice. Remember Freckle Juice?
No. What was that about?
A kid wanted freckles. So there's this little girl in his class that has freckles, or maybe she doesn't have freckles, but she says, "I will give you a secret family recipe for like you give me $1, and it's just all this gross stuff put together, and he drinks it, and it doesn't give him freckles." Continuing that same vein, How to Eat Fried Worms.
Vaguely.
Yeah, where he makes he has to eat 10 worms in 10 days. I know one time he can't even fry, he has to eat it raw. And then the big gag at the end is that he has gotten to enjoy eating worms and continues to eat worms. Indian in the Cupboard, they turned that one into a movie.
Yeah. I think I remember that.
Our teacher read that to us in class, and I remember there was a part where we all said the story should have stopped there. And then it continued. But I think at one point, there's a cowboy and an Indian, they're little like, army men, but they're cowboys and Indians. And if you put them in the cupboard and turn the key, they'll come to life. They're little miniatures. And one of them gets stabbed or shot and is in danger, and they have to bring a medic to life or something to treat him or something like that, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And they brought the army medic to life to do that.
Yeah, exactly. There was a series of books by Edmund Wallace Hildick. There was the McGurk Detective Agency. I think the first one was called the Nose, and then I think just every other one was the Case of whatever. And this McGurk guy, out of his, treehouse, he ran this detective agency with these little kids. They were all like rejects. Like one had a huge nose, but they all had, something special. Like the one with the huge nose could smell things real well. And they would, use those talents to solve crimes. I like that. Encyclopedia Brown, of course.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Every page was its own mystery, and then you had to turn in the back to see if you could figure out how to solve it. I don't think I ever once solved an Encyclopedia Brown case. Did you?
No way. Yeah. I don't ever think I finished an Encyclopedia Brown.
Yeah, I don't think I ever finished it. You just randomly pick story. But I do something that I always remember from Encyclopedia Brown is that, like, one of the cases or one of the stories was that a guy claimed that he was trying to impress a girl, much like you. It was very similar to the story that you told, and the girl wasn't impressed because she knew he wasn't really reading. And the reason she knew she wasn't reading is because he said he was between page, I got to try to get this right, 71 and 72 of the book, and this girl knew that books aren't numbered that way. That the page on the right, I believe, is the odd number. So you can't be between 71 and 72. You can only be between 72 and 73, or
70 and 70.
Yeah, 70.
71 and 73. Yes.
Yeah. So I've never forgotten that, and I still try to find books to this day that violate that. I still try to find a book where the even number is on the right side, and I haven't been able to do that. Where the Sidewalk Ends and A Light in the Attic. Remember those Shel Silverstein poetry books?
Yes, definitely. The Sidewalk Ends. That was the one with a white cover, and it just showed a sidewalk with a bunch of dirt hanging off the end of it, right?
Yeah. And what I've learned in my adult years is that sidewalks do end. But at that time, I thought they didn't. And then, where the sidewalk ends. That's a great idea. And so just all these great funny poems, like I'm being swallowed by a boa constrictor and I'm too sick to go to school. And I love those. Roland Harvey Down the Hill was another funny poetry book where they were mostly centered on this bully named Harvey, who bullied these kids around. And I remember at one point he ties them to a tree and pulls their pants down and leaves them there. But they eventually get their revenge. They all team up and they knock him over at the top of this hill, and they roll him. They roll him down the hill. Literally, he rolls down the hill, and I just thought that was hilarious. Okay, getting a little more advanced. There were, we were starting to get into the young adult phase. And you had some series here. Psy Patrol was a series I found that's very similar to that movie Chronicle. Do you remember I think it was 2010. 2011. It was the same year that Aubrey was born. And, so these kids, one's a little younger girl. Hedra is her name. One's a kind of geeky boy and one's like a tough guy. Sal's his name. They all touch this meteor that crashes into their mall. They get superpowers. Took me forever to find the top. Find Vic Sage. Remember Vic Sage, our good friend Vic Sage, from Saturday Night Frights podcast. He is the one that said, "Hey, that sounds like Psy Patrol." Sure enough, it was. Thank you, Vic Sage. I got all three. There were 3 books. I got all 3 of them. I read 2 of them back in the original era. I did not read Each of them focuses on one to three. Yeah, each of them, like the first one is Sal's book, and it claims that it's written by Sal, whatever his last name was. And the second is Hedda's book, and it claims it's written by Hedda. And the third is, I forget the kid's name, and it claims it's written by, and then at the end they're like, hey, the meteor didn't give us these powers. All kids have these powers, and soon all kids will be doing the things we're doing. And I'm like, yeah, I can't wait. Totally believed it.
I say thank you, Vic. Definitely.
Yes, thank you, Vic. Definitely. Alfred Hitchcock Presents series. He had a whole score of anthology books that I would go read, and I'd pick out story. I wouldn't read the whole thing, so I'd pick out stories. Ghostly Gallery was one of those stories that scared even me.
I've got 2 of his albums.
Yeah,
the Ghost Story albums, and I love those.
Stories Not for the Nervous. There's so many stories, and I've recovered a lot of these. The way that I have to remember a story that I can identify. Right. I knew there was one story, and I couldn't even find this one. I didn't know the title of it. I've forgotten the title now, but I own it, so I can look it up. Where, Obstinate Uncle Otis, for example, that was one story that I remembered the title specifically. So there's a website that lists all the Alfred Hitchcock anthologies. I found the one that had Obstinate Uncle Otis in it. I knew I'd read that one. So I bought it, and as I read, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this story too. I remember this story too. So many stories. Yeah. There's another similar one called Young Mutants, edited by Isaac Asimov, that I've been looking for years. It had the Wonder Horse story in it, and I finally found that. The Plant People. Do you remember The Plant People?
No, I don't. What was that one?
That was like a photo novel. There was text, but they would also have these pictures. And it was kind of like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, but these people in the desert, this fog rolls in and it turns them into cacti. So there's all these pictures. They're very disturbing for a little kid. One is a kid, like your veins will pop out and you start to get prickles on your arm or something. And then there's one, it's like a double page spread where there's this woman. It's a cactus wearing a dress. They put a dress on a cactus and all the townspeople are just staring at this woman who's turned into a cactus. And it was so disturbing, when I was a kid.
I bet that cactus was hot.
Yes. Almost, only if it was the family circus mom. If it was the family circus mom that turned into a cactus, that would be the hottest cactus in the desert. Let me tell you that. The Crestwood House Monster series. Do you remember those?
No,
I
missed out on a lot.
They were orange, and they would survey like genre. So there would be one for King Kong, one for Dracula, one for Frankenstein, and they would cover. They even went into the Hammer horror movies, and I couldn't see those movies again. Back in that time, no VCRs, no Blockbuster, no video on demand. I heard about all these wonderful, there were sci-fi movies and horror movies I heard about that I never get to see. These books were my exposure to them. So, and I still remember there were times, like I remember there one on King Kong where it said, the Japanese did King Kong versus Godzilla, and they filmed 2 endings. I remember it said those crafty Japanese, which again, something you probably can't say today, but those crafty Japanese filmed 2 different endings. Well, they have that one at our local library. I went and looked in it, and there is that line exactly as I remembered. So when you're reading something like that, you're like, I know this isn't a vague memory. I know I had this book and read it. So,
unless it was a craft factory in Japan, I think that would be okay to talk about.
Yeah, those crafty. Yeah, exactly.
Oh no, see, that's different.
Yeah. A similar series was called the Eerie series. It wasn't nearly as uniform. I forget, there's one on aliens, there's one on ghost stories, there's one on monsters. I wrote a write-up on this one for the Retroist. And then, much like you just recently contacted the inventor of Merlin, I decided to look up the author. I forget his name right now, but I decided to look him up and contact him. And he said, yeah, that was the first book I wrote. He then went to the Retroist and he was like, thank you for remembering, this old book that I wrote, so.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Do you remember that one?
Yes, and I have the recording too, as a matter of fact.
Oh, yeah. So, and they're all on YouTube. They were little scary stories. They were okay. Like, When Martin Comes is one of them. Remember where they, each, a guy keeps waking up and there's a big cat and a bigger cat and they keep saying, wait till Martin comes. The real hook on those stories though were the artwork. The artwork is insane and terrifies me today.
A tree that looked like a zombie.
Yeah.
Was the main cover, right? And,
yeah, and you're fostering this off on little kids. It's like, what are you thinking? But also, they did one, and this is a pretty because it's all collections of folklore. I didn't know that at the time, but I have the omnibus, the all three. If you look on the shelf there, you see the version I have is all
I
three.
See them right here.
Yeah, all three books together. So one of them is this old song that I've heard people know apart from the book. Where the worms crawl in, the worms crawl out, the worms crawl over your, and it talks about what happens when you're dead. Well,
Eat your inside out.
yeah. My grandfather had just died about the time I discovered these books, and my cousins were at my house reading this. They were older and they're laughing. They think it's hilarious, and I'm thinking, well, that's what's happening to Grandpa. You know, I mean, it's just, you know, so, well, and again, the point is that these things intersect with your life. I mean, these books really contributed to the way I understand the world. Choose Your Own Adventure books.
Yeah.
Remember Choose Your Own Adventure?
I do, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Wasn't that the ones where you had to pick your
Yes.
chapter you were going to read next? It would have you connect to a different part of the book.
Yes. So this was unleashed upon us in fourth grade. My teacher had the first two, The Cave of Time and Deadwood City. If Deadwood City's not the second one, then that was at least the two she had. She said,
Deadwood City, I remember.
Yeah, she said, I'm going to give these to our two best readers, which was me and Ben. She gave Cave of Time, which I would have rather had, to Ben, and she gave me Deadwood City. And I took it home, and I read, and so, yeah, you read it, and it says, if you want to go left, go to page 20, and if you want to go right, go to page 15 or whatever, and you flip through the page. Well, so I understood that part enough, but I didn't understand that once you were done, you had to go back to the beginning. I thought once you had done, because, sometimes you lived, sometimes you died, but that could happen in the middle of the book. Well, I just turned the page thinking I'm starting a new story, and it's, in the beginning, it's just totally, Ben lost.
You ruined the plot there.
Yeah, I ruined it for you. Ben, so the deal was when Ben was done with Cave of Time and I was done with Deadwood City, we would switch. Well, I was done with Deadwood City that weekend. I devoured it and, brought it back. Ben couldn't find the Cave of Time, never brought it back.
Way to go, Ben.
Yeah, I never got my hands on the Cave of Time until just a couple years ago when I bought it, and there it is.
Oh, wow.
You can see it on the shelf right there. Fighting fantasy books were like Choose Your Own Adventure, except there was a D&D element to it, Dungeons & Dragons. You had to roll dice. Yeah. And I would make up character sheets, and I would play these games. Never once won them. They were very hard to win. Now, those do exist. They don't seem to work on my Kindle HD, but they worked on my old Kindle that was just, book form, and it did all the dice rolling for you, and it made a map for you. And finally, I was able to play through enough that I defeated it. But
congratulations.
City of Thieves was one of my favorites in Fighting Fantasy. There were others like this. One was called Lone Wolf, and I know D&D had books like Dragonlance or something like that. I don't know if those were Fighting Fantasy or not. I never got into them. The Prydian Chronicles, the High King, the Black Cauldron. No, I think the Book of Three, the Black Cauldron, Taran Wanderer, Castle of Lear, and I forget what the last one might be. I don't think it's Return of the King. I think it's the High King.
Never heard of him.
Yeah,
I'm amazed at your memory. That
well,
was pretty good.
Disney turned the Black Cauldron into a movie. And
that I remember.
Yeah, they're basically like the Lord of the Rings. They're based on Welsh mythology. Again, I was reading these about the time Grandpa died. I very clearly remember reading The High King in the car on the way to the funeral. Because the funeral was in Dayton, we were in Columbus, so a bit of a drive there. Yeah, so but they were very moving to me at that time as well, and just really, really connected with. I would love to see a Lord of the Rings style movie of the Prydian Chronicles. I would love to see that.
Somebody's going to direct it.
It ought to be me. Hollywood, I'm telling you right now, you want a blockbuster, call me, Black Cauldron. Let's get it done. The same author, Lloyd Alexander, did a trilogy called the Westmark Trilogy. That had a book called The Kestrel in it, and I remember that one. That one was more a political thriller, but there's one part that I've never forgotten. That one character says to another, he says, if you get a piece of gristle in your mouth, you can either chew on it or you can spit it out. And that has been advice that I have followed all my life.
That's a good piece of advice.
Are you going to chew on this or are you going to spit it out? Bridge to Terabithia. Do you remember that one?
very familiar sounding. But
This
I don't know if I've read it.
Catherine Patterson, she won an award for it. Again, my teacher read this to us in 4th grade, I believe, maybe 3rd grade. It's, not to spoil it for anybody, but, a poor boy gets into a relationship. I think they're 5th graders. He gets into a relationship with a wealthier, better off girl. And, they learn about life. And then the girl drowns and he has to deal with it. And it was very sad. I remember being very moved as a kid, but I also, there's one line in it where, there's this girl, she's kind of hefty. She's the bully of the school. And, she does something on the bus or something. And one of the boys that's not afraid of her yells out, "Weight Watchers is for you, Janice." And I laughed and laughed and laughed, and I thought it was so hilarious. And then there's a part where, she says something back to the boy, and Catherine Patterson just says, "The boy said a cuss word." And again, I laughed and laughed and laughed because random, unprovoked vulgarity is one of the things that I just find to be hilarious. She did something about the chrysanthemum. That's set in feudal Japan. I read that one as well, but Bridge to Terabithia is the one I love. After the Bomb and Fire Brats were a series about nuclear war. Always a big, issue back, in the mid 80s.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah, both of them are about kids that survive, the nuclear explosion and how they try to survive. Fire Brats, I think, is more Mad Max apocalyptic, whereas After the Bomb is a more, this is the way it really would be, where this kid, he doesn't fight roving motorcycle gangs. He's just trying to get water. He's trying to help burn victims and stuff like that. And it's pretty moving. I read a lot of novelizations because I didn't get to see a lot of movies. RoboCop. I read RoboCop. I read, Return of the Jedi. I remember that. There's also a Star Wars book, like it's Star Wars Encyclopedia, that said stormtroopers have 5 levels of armor, and I incorporated that into my when I played with it. No, you only got through 3 levels. That didn't hurt me. But, I read the novelization for Jaws 4, and I still have it today. You can see it right there on the shelf.
Yeah.
There's
looking at this.
It actually improves on the movie because it says that the shark is controlled by a witch doctor, a voodoo priest or something like that. So
I knew it.
Yeah, doesn't that make more sense?
It sure does.
So,
sometime I'm watching it, I'm like, this is definitely controlled by a voodoo witch doctor.
Lots of magazines you can see here on the shelf. 321 Contact. I had a subscription. Yes. Yeah. And I remember waiting for that to come. Be like, when is this magazine going to get here?
I love these.
Yes. See, so you've got some of the magazines. Dynamite. Remember Dynamite?
Dynamite.
Yeah. No, not the. Yeah, not that. What's that guy's name? JJ? Is it JJ?
Yeah, JJ from the Jeffersons. Not the Jeffersons.
No. Good Times, right? What's happening? I don't know. No, this was like a Tiger beat for a little kid. And I remember Tom and Jerry, the article on Tom and Jerry said they're not really trying to kill each other. So it's okay to watch the violence, kids. Sure. But they also had Blair from Facts of Life was on the cover at one time. I think her name is Lisa Welch or something. Yes. Welchel. Blair. Did I have a crush on Blair?
And proper use of Aquanet.
Yes, there you go. I recently watched an episode of Facts of Life, and I was like, wow, they put a lot of makeup on these girls.
They did. That's the 80s right there for you.
Highlights for Children, which I never saw except at the doctor's office. Remember that?
Yeah, well, I actually was a big subscriber.
Fun with a Purpose. Oh, yeah, Fun with a Purpose is.
Yeah, I loved it when I was a kid. Oh, I would play that search and try to find stuff in the back there.
Yeah, the Timber Toes, Goofus and Gallant, and I didn't even know what Mad Magazine and Cracked Magazine.
Oh, forget it. Mad Magazine, another thing at the very back. I always had to put that picture together to find out.
Oh yeah, the fold over, and it was always hilarious. There's a bunch of books I still can't identify today that I know I've read. One was about a fat kid. And he's being picked on, and they take him to an island and they strip him and leave him there. And he develops this alter ego, this captain, something where the guy's like, come on, you got to get up, take care of yourself. And he finds an old pair of panties and he pulls them on, and he finds some other stuff, and he manages to get stuff off the island, and he starts to become a stronger guy. It's more optimistic of an ending.
Similar to what I went through.
Oh, well, you still have those panties on, I see. So
they fit like a glove.
One was about a teen sleepover. This was a girl's book. How I got it and read it, I don't know, but it's a bunch of girls having a sleepover. And I remember they came up with a French onion dip that doesn't make your breath smell, because that was very important, you know. Lots of joke books, you know, that there's no way I could identify today. The Blackstone magic books, you know, how to do magic tricks, stuff like that.
Yeah, I've seen those.
One was about a kid who was a werewolf and his mom was a werewolf. And again, when you turn into a werewolf, you lost your clothes. There's a lot of nudity on the show today, but you lost your clothes. So I remember at the end, you know, he's turned back into human and he's trying to get home in the early dawn hours and he's naked and his neighbor sees him bending over to get the key from underneath the mat. And then he goes in and his mom reveals that she's also a werewolf. I don't know the title of that one. There's one about a teacher who was really cool, but she kind of smoked and the administration had trouble with her and she got fired. One that had these characters, it was a illustrated one. These characters, they looked like the Shmoo. Remember the Shmoo? But
Yeah.
they were saving other animals from some sort of oil slick or something. I can't identify that one. And you know, there's countless others probably that I can't identify. And you know, I've got a note here that says Aliens book. I don't know what that refers to, but some other book I read, you know, that I can't. Oh, I know what that was. There was this science book that we had in the ERC, and most of it was legitimate outer space science and discovery, but the back of it was like theories about what aliens might be like on other planets. So one of them was like from Pluto or something, and it could only exist in like negative, you know, 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit or something. It was like a blue little crystal thing with legs. Yeah. And we used to look at that and love that. Probably dozens of others that I'm forgetting, but this has been a lengthy discussion. I appreciate you putting up with me for it,
No,
but
that's fine. I actually enjoyed it.
I wanted to share with you my little shelf here of book memories, all these books that were special to me. Now, I've asked you to share books that were special to you. You only gave me one, Uncle John's Bathroom Reader, but...
No, and I need that back when.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Here you go. You can have it. I really didn't want to touch it
very much.
quite honestly.
I remembered the name of the author. It was Alan Ormsby. He's the one who did that monster.
Okay.
That I was talking about.
He's the guy that directed Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things.
Yes.
And he has also done some other higher profile stuff than that, but I forget what.
I'm going to find out because I am planning to do a podcast on him. It's
Okay.
going to be one of my look-its. So, yeah.
Excellent. Well,
Definitely.
we're going to get kicked out of here pretty soon. The bell is going to ring, and
I hear the principal coming downstairs now.
the buses are lining up outside, so we're going to have to go. But listen, it's been great having you here to talk about, you know, not only dumb things that we did when we were a kid, but all these books that I loved. Thank you so much for doing that with me.
Thank you, too. Definitely. When we get together again, do you want to talk about more dumb things? I was thinking maybe restaurants.
Dumb things we did in restaurants. I might be able to think up a couple of those.
I think I could definitely come up with some of them.
Okay, so
great.
I am looking forward to that. We will get together again soon and talk about more dumb things that we did when we were kids.
McCoycast.